Joining us is Anton Guinea, CEO of the Guinea Group of Companies and a speaker at the 5th Annual Australian Mine Safety Conference in Perth in June. Welcome, Anton.
G'day, Nigel. How are you?
Well, thank you. Anton, how does Australia's mine safety record stack up globally?
Look, Nigel, I think we are on the improve. I think in comparison to, say, a country like China, where we hear a lot about the amount of fatalities over there in the mining industry, look, we probably have an impeccable record, but I think there are probably countries, and although I couldn't give you exact statistics at this time, there are probably countries that we could emulate and we could work towards. Yes, we have got a mining industry that's one of our major industries in Australia. Yes, there are a lot of people working in that industry, but yes, we still do hurt people. And one statistic that I do know is that in Australia, we hurt seriously, permanently or fatally up to 134,000 people a year at work. Now that's not just the mining industry, that's the workplaces in Australia in general, but there'd be a proportion of those which would be mining. So how do we stack up globally? I think there's room for improvement. Some countries are worse, but I think we lead the way in some ways.
So is there much room for improvement, Anton?
Look, I think there is, and I think if you summed it up, Nigel, the way that I would sum it up is, while we're hurting people at work, particularly in mining, which is a dangerous industry, while we're still hurting people, there is always room for improvement. The goal of safety, as you know, is to make sure we don't send people home in a worse condition that they arrive, which is really the worst outcome. And it's not only the worst outcome for the employee, it's the worst outcome for the family and the organisation too. So have we got room for improvement? Absolutely. What areas? Well, I think, over the last 10 or 15 years, our systems, processes and procedures are developing so much. I think the mindset out there and employee engagement, involvement, interaction, ownership, those are the areas. I think it's all about the employee safety now. So it's about the employee getting involved and making a difference and contributing.
Anton, what's your own experience of mining and mine safety?
Nigel, I, as a young tradesman, actually, I'm an electrician by trade, so as a young tradesman, 21-year-old, I headed over to a little town in WA called Panawanica. I went over to Panawanica as a sprightly electrician, straight out of my apprenticeship. I worked there for 4 years, actually. I worked on the mine site. It was an open cut iron ore mine, and I worked there as both a tradesman and as, an engineering support officer, which was great. So I did that for 4 years. After then heading to Santos Oil and Gas, I headed up to a company called Energy Resources of Australia, which was a uranium mine up in the Kakadu of the Northern Territory. So I was up there for nearly 2 years in various roles in maintenance planning and systems administration roles. So I guess my mining background spans a couple of states of Australia, and as well as that I've got all sorts of other experience from copper to oil and gas to aluminium and alumina. So yeah, in relation to mining, tradesmen through to some more senior roles, which are enjoyable, and I love mining. It's a great industry and it's great fun.
And so you would have been very close to some of the issues covering such a diverse area. You would have been very close to some of the mine safety issues.
Absolutely, especially some of the projects that I was involved in, things like shutdowns and those sorts of things where you have contractors involved. So not only are you responsible for the safety of your people on site, but when you bring external parties in and you engage external resources, there's a whole other element of how you manage their safety, because they might not have the same cultural experience, the same cultural belief system that you have in your organisation. So there's a whole range of things that are important around managing not only internal employee safety, but in relation to managing contractor safety too.
Anton, you'll be presenting to the 5th Annual Australian Mine Safety Conference in Perth on the 18th and 19th of June. What will you be touching on?
I'm going to be focusing on the mindset aspect of health and safety, Nigel. I really do believe that we've got some way to go in relation to convincing employees that their safety is something that should be paramount in their mind at all times. What I say is this: look, don't use safety systems because you have to, use them because you want to. And I've got a key message, and it's this: it may happen to you. You may be next if you don't put the right things in place, the right mindset, the right strategies, the right systems to ensure that you go home safely at the end of the workday. So I've had a bad accident, Nigel, and I know what it's like to be on the receiving end. So what I try to do is encourage people just to do whatever they can to stay away from anything that is potential harm and to mitigate and eliminate hazards. Do what they can to keep themselves safe.
Anton,
So they're the things I'll be touching on, Nigel.
that's terrific, Anton. It's been great talking to you, and we look forward to seeing you at the conference.
Can't wait. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Anton. For more information on the 5th Annual Australian Mine Safety Conference, go to www.iir.com.au/minesafety/vid.